Welcome back to another review by Mega Train Lover. Today we're having a look at a Bachmann model. As you can clearly see on the box it says that it is a Class 40. Now the particular Class 40 we're looking at today is one of the newer tooled versions, so it's not one of the old toolings from about 20 years ago. This one came out about 10 or so years ago. But if we turn to the side, you can see the product code is 32-481, Class 40 diesel, number D369. It's in the British Railways green with the small yellow panels. DCC ready, but I have already fitted it with a decoder. So, bit of history about the Class 40s. This was one of the first diesels to be introduced by British Railways under the modernisation plan of 1955. The 40s, or as they were originally known, the English Electric Type 4s, were built between 1958 and 1962, and they were built alternately at English Electric at the Vulcan Foundry, and 20 of them were built at Robert Stevenson and Hawthorns. In total there were 200 of these built. When they were first introduced on the Great Eastern Main Line, and then later they were introduced on the East Coast Main Line and the West Coast Main Line as well. And gradually, with the introduction of more powerful and modern locomotives, and of course the electrification of the West Coast Main Line, the Class 40s were displaced onto other parts of the network, working on more secondary routes, and they started working goods trains as well. They were originally built as passenger locomotives mostly, but they were basically mixed traffic from the outset, but they were a bit more suitable for passenger work, although later on in life they were seen working goods trains more. And one member of the class is notorious for being the locomotive involved in the Great Train Robbery of 1963. I'm not going to go into detail about the Great Train Robbery. There's loads and loads of sources online, but it's it is worth mentioning, because it's quite a bit of a very notorious event that happened with the Class 40. It's the fact that one of these was involved in the Great Train Robbery. The particular loco was D326 in 1963. Now, the Class 40s, for their size, they're one Coco ones, so I'll show you the wheel arrangement in a second. But for their size, they were actually underpowered, unfortunately, which led to their relatively early withdrawal when compared to other diesels of the period, such as the Class 20 and the Class 31s, which obviously, some of them are still in service. Maybe not the 31s, but there are definitely some 20s still in service. But the Class 40s, in comparison, were withdrawn relatively early. They were withdrawn between 1983 and 1985. The very, very last withdrawal was D200 in 1988, the first member of the class. That was withdrawn by BR that year. Although by then D200 had only worked rail tours, but it was actually owned by British Rail. And I believe seven of them have been preserved. Notable examples preserved are 4106 on the Severn Valley Railway, D345 or 4145, which is quite a regular performer on the main line, and D213 Andania, again a very regular performer on the main line. And there's also one on the East Lancashire. I don't exactly remember their numbers, but I do know there's about 7 of them preserved. And they have gained quite a cult following, and of course D200 is preserved as well. D200 is at the I think it's currently at Shildon, but normally it's at the National Railway Museum in York. So obviously, as mentioned, they have gained quite a cult following, because of they were one of the first diesels, and they're a classic. They're a classic British diesel. Anyway, enough about the history of the Class 40. We're going to have a look at the model. So as you can see, it's not in the box. I've taken it out, I've run it in, etc. So we'll put the box to one side, and we're going to get the model, which is right here. Wow. Well, now first off, before I start, as you would expect for a loco of this size, very heavy. Which means it will not have any problems with adhesion whatsoever. I mean, I'd be very surprised if it did. I mean, it is a very heavy loco, and it is all-wheel drive. So we'll talk about the wheel arrangement first. So it is a 1 Coco 1, which means it's got these 2 unpowered wheels at the front. These rotate in order to guide the locomotive into curves. Then you've got the Coco wheels, which are the 6 powered wheels on each bogie, and that's on the other bogie as well. And then at the other end you've got the 2 sets of leading wheels to guide the locomotive into curves. Of course, that was done away with. The only 2 types of locos which had the 1 Coco 1 wheel arrangement. I know there was a prototype bullied, I think it was the D16, which had it as well. But the only 2 production diesels which had the 1 Coco 1 wheel arrangement were these, the Class 40s, and the Peaks, the Class 44, 45 and the 46s, but together they're just known as Peaks. So yeah, but that was done away with fairly quickly as it was deemed unnecessary, it seems. Anyway, let's have a look at the model itself. So, I mean, it looks stunning. The livery application is beautiful. So at the front, you've got the separately fitted lamp irons and handrails, and the buffers, they are sprung. And there's the head code 3 Sierra 40. There's the number D369. And then, yeah, so you've got very nice detail. You've got the grille here, which is very, very nicely textured. There's a driver in the cab. The cab detail, it is unpainted, but it does look quite nice. And the lights do work, so you get the head code box lights up if the locomotive is coming towards you. When it's going away from you, the 2 tail lights here light up. In addition, it also has cab lights in each cab, and obviously the lights work on this end as well. Now you do have the option, there are a couple of switches underneath, you do have the option of turning the cab lights on and off. So the cab light, when it's on DCC, which is what I use, the cab lights can be turned on and off using a function. But if you're running this on DC and you don't want the cab lights on, you can turn them off using this switch underneath. And this one, as you can see, I've had the tail lights turned off as well, and that's purely because most of the time I am hauling, you know, this is hauling coaches and wagons, and it wouldn't have the tail lights on. But if you're running this light engine, then of course you can turn it on if you so wish, if it's not pulling anything. So yeah, I mean, the roof looks really, really nice as well. You got very nice texturing around the fans. Obviously all the doors here for the engines, and then the fan, sorry, not the fans, the exhausts, and then you got the fan here, again very, very nicely textured. There is a fan underneath which only spins if you blow on it, so it's not actually powered, but that's fine. I mean, I don't really like the rotating fans is something Hornby does, but I think Bachmann do it on their newer diesels as well, and now they use a servo motor. But I just remember Hornby doing the rotating fans, and where it was like a rubber band connected to the flywheel, and that arrangement just wasn't very good. It was just putting additional stress on the motor, and yeah. But thankfully, I think they've done away with that feature. And so you got the exhausts here, and you might be wondering, what's this one? Well, this is the chimney for the steam heat boiler. So as you know, the early diesels were all fitted with steam heat boilers, as the coaching stock was steam heat compatible. It was done away with in the 1970s once the Mark IIs and the Mark IIIs were introduced, and then the Mark Is were converted to electric train heating as well. But the steam heat boilers were notoriously unreliable, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, and here's the other end, and there's the head code 1 Alpha 69. If we focus, there we go. And Now you got sprung buffers on the other end. All this detail, it has been pre-fitted. It wasn't pre-fitted from the factory, I believe, because this is a pre-owned locomotive. I believe the owner did this themselves, but I mean it does look very, very nice. It's been done to a very, very nice standard, as you would expect. If we turn to the other side, you see it's very, very similar. Very, very nice texturing around the grills again. Nice windows too. I mean, there's not much to talk about. I mean, there's not too much in terms of detail. Obviously, there's no handrails along the side to speak of. I mean, it is a diesel, but I mean, whatever detail is required to be present is pretty much present, and it looks absolutely stunning. Delivery. I mean, delivery is just beautiful on this. However, appearance is one thing. How does the Class 40 perform? Let's find out. So here we have the Bachmann Class 40 on the track, and what we're going to do now is just turn the lights on. So if I press function 0, you can see the headlights come on. If I switch direction, see the tail lights come on. Now I've actually turned the tail lights on using the switch underneath here on the water tank, and that was this is obviously because it's a light engine and just makes it look a bit more realistic. But you also get cab lights. Now that is done using function 1. So we're going to keep these on. What we're going to do is apply some power and watch it go. And there goes the Class 40. And this is halfway speed. And it is already running very well. Wow. Very smooth. I do like the slight growl from the motor. Adds a bit of character to it. But wow, all in all, very, very nice. Get a few shots of her passing. Yeah, all in all, very, very nice. Really, really impressed with the performance. Just to conclude this video, this is a very, very highly recommended model by me. I think Bachmann have released a slightly more updated version of the 40 in recent times, but even this one from about 10 years ago, this is a very, very nice model of the 40. So it's very, very highly recommended. And of course it depends on which livery you want, whether you want British Rail green or blue. It's a very, very nice model indeed. Thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Goodbye.